The night was still, the air thick with an unshakable sense of unease. In the dimly lit apartment complex, a young woman sat alone, the only company being the flickering lights of the city outside her window. She had always considered her second-floor balcony to be safe, until the night she noticed something that shattered that illusion. A movement just beyond the glass, so subtle it could have been a trick of the light. But as she squinted into the darkness, her breath hitched. A shadow crouched low just outside. It didn't move, it didn't breathe, it only watched. Her fingers tightened around her phone, but she dared not look away. A single step forward, and the shadow melted into the night. She was alone again. Or so she thought. As days passed, small disturbances began to gnaw at her. She would wake to find the sliding door slightly ajar, though she had locked it before bed. Objects in her apartment felt misplaced, her skin prickling with the sensation of being watched. But the true horror unraveled the evening she noticed the attic hatch above her bed. A small, unassuming square in the ceiling that should have remained untouched. Yet, that night, it was open just a crack. Dust fluttered in the air beneath it, disturbed as if something, or someone, had been there. A chill crawled down her spine as she forced herself to look away, convincing herself it was nothing. But the unease festered. The feeling of unseen eyes burrowing into her every moment became unbearable. Desperate for reassurance, she contacted her landlord, insisting something was wrong. The maintenance worker arrived the following day, his expression skeptical yet willing to humor her concerns. Morning arrived, but relief did not. The police arrived, but the traces of an intruder were too faint, too uncertain. They could do little but suggest vigilance. That wasn't enough. She had already made up her mind. The moving truck arrived the next day. Box by box, she packed away the remnants of her shattered sense of security. As she loaded the last of her things into the truck, she allowed herself to take a breath. It was over. She was leaving. But as she climbed into her car, her gaze lifted, just once, to the high-rise building across the street. And there, in the faint glow of the setting sun, a dark silhouette stood at a window. Watching? Motionless? A heartbeat passed, then another. And just before the details of the figure could become clear, it vanished. The nightmare, it seemed, was not truly over. Some houses are haunted by memories, others by something far worse. This is not just a story, it is a warning. A house in Georgia, a place where history is soaked in blood, where shadows move in silence, where the walls themselves whisper. Secrets of the dead. I lived there, I survived. But I left a piece of myself behind. What I uncovered within those walls still haunts me, and it will haunt you too. I was only 23, young and lost, fresh out of a failed marriage. The house was beautiful, too beautiful for its price. A historic Victorian masterpiece standing, defiant in a neighborhood decayed by time and crime. Clawfoot bathtub, grand fireplaces, intricate woodwork. But something about it felt wrong. The moment I stepped inside, the air changed, heavy, silent, expectant. It was as if the house had been waiting for me. It started subtly. Footsteps in the night when no one was awake. Doors that wouldn't stay shut. The floors creaked under invisible weight. But the worst part was the feeling. Eyes on me, all the time. The house didn't want me alone. It wanted me afraid. I wasn't the only one suffering. Everyone who lived in that house lost something. My roommates, every one of them, saw their relationships crumble. Despair seeped into our minds like a disease. Some suffered restless nights. Others had nightmares so vivid they woke up screaming. We weren't just living in that house, it was consuming us. Then came the basement. A friend, a medium, sensed it immediately. "There are children here," she said. "They're sad, angry." It didn't make sense until we found it. The hidden closet, untouched by time, with deep claw marks gouged into the wood from the inside. And beneath the attic floorboards, burned children's clothing, old newspapers, blackened by fire. The house wasn't just haunted. It was hiding something. I warned them, I begged them, but they didn't listen. One night, a guest brought a spirit board. The moment it touched the table, everything changed. One of the women started sleepwalking, talking to things that weren't there. She told me she was being violated in her dreams, murdered over and over. The darkness was no longer lurking in the corners. It had spread. It was inside us. I couldn't stay. The house had taken enough. I left, but I couldn't stop asking questions. The truth. The house had witnessed horror beyond comprehension. A family slaughtered. Children's bodies hidden beneath the floorboards, stuffed into the septic tank. The back half of the house burned to erase the evidence. And the landlords, they knew. They always knew. Some places should never be lived in. Some secrets should never be uncovered. The house still stands, waiting for the next soul to claim. If you ever find yourself in a place that feels wrong, run before it's too late.